Hi everyone, Lazy Fire here. Welcome to the Hate the Player podcast. This is episode 33, depending on how you count the Counter-Strike episode, I guess. Which is like a Gaiden episode or something like that. I don't know.
We're actually going to use Call of Duty numbering. We're COD 4-3.
Modern chatware.
Modern chatware.
Yeah, how the fuck do you really number the Call of Duty series at this point? I mean, I've seen people throw down like Call of Duty 8 and shit, but...
Yeah, it gets weird. I think we're up to like COD 11. Which is...
Yeah.
I remember there was like some really weird numbering.
3 seconds in. Are you going to talk about the Xbox-only versions of Call of Duty?
What?
Three Toes?
Oh no, I was going to talk about Jedi Knight. It was Star Wars Dark Forces. Do you remember that old game?
Holy shit, that game fucking owned.
It ended up, they had like just the weirdest numbering ever by the end of it.
Yeah, that's
it was Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight, Star Wars Dark Forces, Jedi Knight 2, which I guess was Dark Forces 3. Then there was Jedi Outcast. Then there was another one like Jedi Academy.
Yep.
And
which was technically like Dark Forces 4. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I do remember that shit. And it had like the most incoherent set of storylines you could ever have.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it turns out, you're this badass bounty hunter. Oh, but hey, your dad was a Jedi Knight and you never knew. Oh, here's a green lightsaber.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
You'll learn how to use a lightsaber.
All I want, you guys have played QWOP, right?
Oh, yeah.
I want a QWOP lightsaber game where you inevitably chop your own head off.
Oh, man. That'd be great.
That'd be pretty funny. Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, here's your lightsaber in the third level. You will never use any other weapon the rest of the game.
Oh, man. What other games have done that? I can think of a few that they introduce one thing or another that just completely breaks the game to a point, and it's like there's no good reason to use anything but this thing.
No.
The Dark Forces games, especially the Jedi Academy or Jedi Academy 2 Outcast or whatever it was like the absolute second you got that lightsaber and could go into third person with it, it was like, okay, this is what you're doing now. There's no good reason to go and use anything else.
Which, I mean, it is a game where you are a Jedi, so that's kind of the point. But yeah, I don't know why they even bother putting in any other weapons.
Yeah, it's befuddling that they even bothered. But I mean, the story mode was like, you decided not to be a Jedi anymore and gave up the lightsaber.
Oh yeah, you were a rogue Jedi who, can kind of use a little bit of the dark side and a little bit of the light side and just break all the fucking rules.
Which meant that once you had the abilities, what you'd do is you'd force choke someone, put them over a cliff, and then drop them. Because that game gave you the ability to be a complete dick to everyone all the time.
The best was, and there were a few console commands to where you could turn on like dismemberment.
Yeah.
When you console is in hitting your tilde button and entering in commands. To where you'd force choke them, like hold them up in the air, and then throw your lightsaber at them and hold the button down so it would just swirl around them and just chop them up like a blender.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
That was pretty good times. But
no blood, though, because that'd be too violent.
Well, the lightsaber automatically cauterizes any cut it makes.
True.
Duh.
Dude.
What kind of nerd are you?
Well, don't you even think about the fact that there's lightsaber whips?
Oh, God.
In the, no longer canon expanded universe, that is totally a thing, is a whip made out of lightsaber.
Yeah. You know what? This doesn't go anywhere good. I'm not gonna talk about this anymore.
Yeah, once they introduced the double-ended lightsaber, things just went to shit.
I thought of that when I was like 7. I'm like, oh, hey, why don't we have that'd be pretty cool. And I drew like a little double-ended lightsaber. And Thanks, George Lucas, for putting in the thing I thought of when I was 7 years old, because I really feel like that's a metaphor for the entire first 3 fucking movies. God, how did we get me talking about this? I don't want to fucking talk about this.
Our plan worked perfectly.
Honest to fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Well, we can stop with Star Wars chat then.
Star Wars chat needs to continue. I actually started posting in the Xbox, the Xbox One mock thread, and I've decided that I'm basically going to troll it as a PC Master Race person, because it's funnier to do that because people get really upset in that thread. There's Stux, who I don't know if you guys have seen him post elsewhere, he posts around a bit. But he's in there, like, right now his thing is talking about how tablets are totally going to kill PCs and consoles. Because kids don't want to have a PC, they want to have a tablet with a Bluetooth keyboard. Like, that is no joke, his, like, thing right now, and people are getting, like, fucking legit upset.
Is this the thread that's titled "The Xbox One is maybe not the final solution to all your entertainment needs"?
Yes.
Okay.
Final solution.
There are some photoshops in the last dozen or so pages that were pretty good about that. But it used to be called Xbox One rendering concrete is overrated because Destiny would not render concrete sometimes in the alpha stage. Or there was another one, it was like maybe not as good as the $35 Chromecast. So, but you know, it's worth mentioning now, like, I don't know if you guys have seen sort of the trend when the Xbox 360 came out. You know, you remember how it was supposed to have, like, oh, you're going to have these marketplaces where you can create in-game content and sell it to other players, you know. We failed Velocity Girl really hard because we weren't able to make shirts in Tony Hawk to sell to other players for microtransactions. What's weird is that, like, some of the social interaction stuff that Microsoft kind of touted and was talking about, you know, jumping into parties with people and being able to trade stuff, etc., that's sort of, like, come through on free-to-play and mobile games and on Steam. Like with Steam Workshop and all that.
Like most everything that Microsoft does, they have a great idea, and then somebody else does it better.
Right. So. Or someone actually executes it after Microsoft mentions it's an idea.
Yep.
Speaking of execute, didn't they recently lay off like 18,000 employees at Microsoft?
No, they're going to.
Yeah, but 1,200 or 12,500 of them are Nokia employees. It's like, we don't have any faith in your division, by the way. We're gonna have the geniuses behind the Xbox One come in and make your new phone. It's gonna cost twice as much as everything else and do nothing.
Yep.
So we finally figure out the one thing that can kill a Nokia phone.
Microsoft.
Brick has been replaced.
I hope they put a red ring on it.
Yeah, I hope it does have a red ring. There's also the NVIDIA gaming tablet the NVIDIA Shield gaming tablet, which is like, it comes with a controller that looks suspiciously like an Xbox controller, and by suspiciously I mean it has 2 thumbsticks, it has the exact same face button layout and lettering and coloring,
and a big green X in the middle.
It's like, I don't know about this, guys. So, yeah, the Microsoft Xbox One, I wanted to mention it more because it started, it decoupled the Kinect from the SKU that was out there. So you had the SKU-less unit, and they're saying that their sales topped 100,000 or so for the month of June, which is just having the NPD numbers come in now, which means that this is like one of their best months at all. And it still barely outsold the Wii U, and the Xbox 360 still outsold it. But at the same time, the PlayStation 4 year to date has outsold the Xbox One and the Xbox 360 combined.
Wow.
The PlayStation 4 is, and this is in North America, if we start including the rest of the world, it probably looks really bleak for Microsoft. In the US, right now, the Xbox One has like a 2.3 install base or 2.5 install base, and the PlayStation 4 has like a 3 point something. It's only like a couple, like close to a couple million units difference, but not quite in terms of sales in the US. But this is Microsoft's strongest region. And it just had one of the best months it's ever had after they got rid of the Kinect, which is something that Microsoft all along has said that, like, hey, this is the thing you need to really get the full, experience out of the system.
Nope.
So Microsoft is now backpedaled on their stupid DRM policy, right? So we've got that.
Right.
Remember back before the console launched, and they said they weren't going to include a headset with the system because you could totally use the Kinect as a voice or as a microphone.
Oh yeah.
So they backtracked on that like within days of announcing that fact. They have gone and they're going to change their Netflix and other app access system, so you don't need live to access that stuff, which makes total sense. But at the same time,
that's pretty great, actually.
At the same time, well, PlayStation already did that, and the Wii does that. Like, you don't need to have a PlayStation Plus account with the $50 a year whatever to get to Netflix on PlayStation. You can just get to it. But the funny thing was that because Microsoft, like, obviously did not anticipate some of the changes they made when Xbox Live services or servers went down last week, people who tried to go play games could play the games, but achievements wouldn't pop up because they're stored online, and so they couldn't get achievements to run. They couldn't access Netflix. They couldn't get to Internet Explorer, to Twitch, anything like that, because the Xbox One, if decoupled from its live servers, is absolutely useless. Still.
Holy shit.
But here's the funnier thing. You know how you have to install all your Xbox One games like it's a mini PC,
right,
and it only has a 500 gigabyte hard drive, like you do with games that are 50 gigabytes and up each.
Yeah.
So it turns out that if you put a disc into your Xbox One while you have it connected to the internet and are installing, the smarter move for you is to actually disconnect the Xbox One from the internet, because it will download the game from the internet while you're installing instead of from the disc.
What? Huh? All right, walk me through that again. Walk me through.
Okay, so you have to install all your games on the Xbox
right.
One, sort
okay,
of like
I
you do on a PC. So you know how say I have a copy of StarCraft 2 or something. I don't know. What do I have? Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. I have that right here. Okay, say I wanted to install that. Man, I have some old-ass PC games in CD cases. Say I wanted to reinstall that for whatever reason, and I'm hooked to the internet, but I'm like, well, I've got the disc right here. So I put it in my CD drive, and I run the executable to install. And I'm like, wow, this is taking a really long time. That's kind of strange. Well, what's happening if I was on my PC would be that instead of installing from the disk I put into the system, Steam or whatever DRM program you have actually does a check and says, oh, you're installing this disk. Okay, well, here's the files, and starts downloading them for you in place of installing the actual game.
What the fuck?
That's right. So you would actually benefit from unhooking your online-only system, because it's basically still that, from the internet and installing just from the disc, because it will take less time to read the Blu-ray than it will to install the entire game if you have bad internet.
Oh, you mean you mean Xbox One isn't on HD DVD?
They're gonna have the first 3D Blu-ray compatible game console, because that matters in 2014.
God. Like, you can tell that the console was just made by fucking committee.
Yeah. It's very clearly, I mean, just the name of it alone kind of gives you an idea of exactly where they're trying to go with it. And I understand it, because you look at the Xbox 360, and how it launched and what the services were. I don't know how early you guys got yours, but I got mine day one because I am a fucking idiot. I was stupid as
waited
hell
like
in
a year.
college. So the Xbox One or the Xbox 360, like on day one, was like there were very few games online, but you could download games and content and demos and all sorts of stuff and check all that out. And it was like, wow, this is really cool. Consoles don't really have a demo house or anything like that you can use just online. And so you could download stuff. And then as internet services started launching, Twitter and all this other stuff, and they started updating their platform, you could get to Netflix, and you could get to Twitter and Internet Explorer or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Pandora, and these things started being put into the console. But the thing was, the console was never really meant for those functions. So it's like you had to download specific apps, and you had to run those apps, and you kind of had to keep those apps running on the dashboard instead of like jumping into a game.
Right.
So it's very clearly like, we're going to give you the option to do everything in your living room through the Xbox One and have it running at all times. So that it makes sense in a lot of ways, right? I don't want to have to like go into Pandora on a laptop next to me when I'm playing whatever game.
Right.
And, if I can just say, hey, Xbox, change the song on Pandora. I don't want to listen to the fucking Arctic Monkeys. Why does Pandora keep thinking I want to listen to the Arctic Monkeys? I fucking hate those guys. And, then it changes it. Of course, it's like, Xbox, open up Pandora, brought to you by the Pandora Corporation.
Really?
No, it's not that bad with that one, but there was one or two, like, really long commands. I think it's like I think it was Hulu is like, Xbox, open up Hulu, brought to you by Comcast. Is you had to say the
Brought
full
to you
thing.
by Comcast.
You had to say the full thing to open up
Xbox, launch Call of Duty, brought to you by Mountain Dew and Doritos.
And Mountain Dew Gamer Fuel.
Yeah. Yeah, like, very clearly, some of the voice commands aren't thought out. But, it's they fucking packaged it. I think everyone knew this was going to happen. This is one of my biggest problems with the console. I mean, let's face it, when you build one of these consoles, you're not building anything that can be matched by a modern PC. You're building something that a PC 2 or 3 years ago could easily overpower.
Well, right,
Like,
that's just economics. I mean, if you want to keep your price point below $1,500, I'm looking at you, Neo Geo. That's what you have to do. I mean, it's just economics.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't fault them for trying to put together a box. The original Xbox was put together from off-the-shelf parts and just like PowerPC stuff and OSs that they had lying around. The original Xbox was like a rush job, basically. And it made it interesting to program for, according to a lot of developers, because it was like they couldn't just take over the more complex code for the PS2. They'd have to basically recode everything. It's why it got, PC conversions so quickly on the Xbox, because they could just basically port over their instruction set from that. But the thing is, like, they're not building a machine that's like, okay, it's going to do all the stuff a PC does, but it's going to do it with our 2 OSs and all this other stuff. They're building a machine that is slightly less powerful than what you'd want to run like Battlefield 4 and Pandora or Spotify or whatever it is,
right,
and have all these things that you can snap to, and it's like, and it's going to have voice commands, and it's going to have this, and it's going to have that. It really just suffered a lot, and I think this entire console generation is going to suffer a lot from having too much stuff and not enough focus on actual games and good games.
Yep.
Which is like concerning, because let's face it, consoles are the main platform developers are targeting. So if there's no compelling reason to make good games for console,
they're not going to make it for fucking PC, because PC gaming's dead, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well...
Well, I mean, the perfect example is this year's E3. Like you said, there was nothing of interest.
Oh, no.
And considering this is, the first... Is this the first or... Yeah, it's the first full year of this generation of consoles being out.
Yep.
And the fact that there is nothing exciting coming out for them in their first full year,
Yeah.
like that's really, really bad.
Yeah.
Don't worry, here's a trailer of Master Chief walking through the desert wearing a poncho and all his armor. What in the fuck?
Why would he wear a
Because consoles. It's like, whoa, that looks really cool, man.
They had a guy in Reach that wore a poncho.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. He was in the desert, so it made him look like he was in the worst reproduction of The Good, the Bad, the Ugly you've ever seen.
Halo is one of those games that I always played the single player. I thought it was unique enough to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
I never got the Halo hate. I definitely didn't like the multiplayer. It was like, I don't know, just there was always a gimmick, like BXRing and just I don't know. It's one of those games I just can't put my finger on. I just don't like it.
Yeah. I played Halo 4 all the way through, and it was like, well, that was a game I just played. And there are things in, especially as the game sort of expanded, there were things that they were throwing in there, like there were these computer monitors all over the place in Halo 4. I found one of them on my own, so maybe I'm just really bad at the game. And if you read them, it kind of explains a bit of the backstory. But at one point, like, the main villain shows up and escapes, and somehow Cortana knows his name, and you're like, that's a bad thing that he escaped. And then you're off after this guy who doesn't really seem to have any relevance, but then is like the main bad guy. It's like, what the fuck were they thinking? But, like, either way, the series has gotten to the point where it's sort of like, and everyone, guess what? Halo, and everyone cheers because that's the one Microsoft exclusive. But in a lot of ways, it's the same thing as like when everyone cheers when Uncharted 4 is announced, or it's like The Last of Us Special Edition for the PS4. Like, I don't know if you need to do that. Like, The Last of Us was in the last console generation. People really liked it. Why you're re-releasing the game on the PS4? You're obviously not changing things because the PS4 and the PS3 are going to have cross-platform compatibility and be able to play against each other in multiplayer. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, remastered. You don't remaster a game that came out 2 years ago. That's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
That's a cash grab.
Yeah, it really was a great game, though.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just my instincts on this console generation were that neither of them looked really interesting enough to bother with. And I don't know, Three Toes, you're the only one of us that hasn't made a real call on this yet. Has anything over the last couple of months really sold you on this, or are you kind of staying out and waiting to see how this, shit fight?
I mean, I really have no motivation to buy either console right now. And honestly, just looking again, not to try to steer us down the indie road again, but just looking at all the good stuff that's on Steam these days, like I'm much more likely to just build a gaming PC now than buying a console.
Yeah. One of us.
Again, that doesn't mean it's going to happen anytime soon. But
have you tried not being poor?
I've tried that all the time, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, the slew of games that are not going to be coming to. I think one of the big things is that right now, a lot of the games that show up on the Xbox 360 and then the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, that people are actually excited about are not being made by the studios that are going to make these things cross-platform either way. That said, it seems like it's very clearly becoming a priority to have indie games on each platform. Mm-hmm. Because
that's who's making fucking games.
Yeah, if you think about it, the Xbox 360 and their live arcade stuff at the very start was like a couple of interesting puzzle games, and then it was just basically straight up
old favorites.
Yeah, old favorites like Contra was on there, and Russian Attack was on there, and all sorts of stuff that I like remembered fondly from childhood that did not remaster well on the 360. And it's like, well, at what point do you just say, okay, we've remastered all the games people are willing to remaster, and we're going to have to get new content, but no one really wants to put the effort into making new content at that size when you're a large company. Like, if you're Capcom or you're... And that's a bad example, because Capcom did put out a Mega Man game that was, download only on the 360. Mega Man 9, I believe. And,
I heard it was really good, too.
Actually, it was. I played through it. It was straight up old school Mega Man in almost every way you can imagine.
Which
but
isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, it was like Mega Man 2.
Mega Man 2 owned so fucking much. The music was
it was Mega Man 2 Part 2.
Yeah. But at the same time, Shovel Knight just came out on the PC. And people are talking about that pretty heavily as being basically a Mega Man game in a world where no one wants to make Mega Man games anymore. And it's like, it's a matter of time before that shows up on the PS Vita, because the Vita seems to have a lot of indie support. Like, every other game that comes out on that thing right now is something I played on Steam 6 months ago. It's like Rogue Legacy and what else did they just recently put on there? I think they have Spelunky on there now too, but that was also released.
Well, at least they're putting out good games.
Yeah. Sorry, they also put Borderlands 2 on a Vita for whatever possible reason you can think of. That was weird.
The funny thing is, though, like, as easy it is to hate on the Xbox One for apparently being useless and horrible, like, at the same time, I'll reiterate, there's nothing that makes me want to get a PlayStation 4 either.
Yeah, and I
think
maybe
because the hype wasn't as big from Sony's side about what all the PS4 was going to be capable of, but yeah, I'm not chomping at the bit to get one of those either. So you can't just focus on the lack of good game development for the Xbox One. Like, it's the PS4 as well. It's both of them. Neither one of them is coming out with anything good.
Yeah,
that's definitely true.
I don't think that's really an argument or a point to argue on right now. I think what really kills it for a lot of people, and I think it was one of those things that was kind of overlooked in the last generation because the Xbox 360 did it, but absolutely eliminating hardware emulation is one of those really weird things that I think people who had PlayStation 4s or had PlayStation 3s or had Xbox 360s are a little hesitant to upgrade immediately, because it's like, okay, I have all these games from 10 years of this console being around, and they're absolutely completely invalidated the second I buy an Xbox One and move my Xbox 360 somewhere else. Like, why would I make a $500 or $400 investment in a new console if it means that everything I have from the last generation is completely pointless until there's new games that come out, or until they create a streaming service or something like that. That's part of it. I think is some people are hesitant because of that. But the other thing is, like you said, like, can you name a game that's really looking interesting to you that you're like, oh, I obviously need to upgrade? It's not coming to the Xbox 360, or it's not going to be on the PlayStation 3. It's going to be next gen only.
I think Titanfall was the only one the Xbox had going for a while, and then once that actually came out, yeah, everyone really loved it for like 2 or 3 weeks max. I've yet to see anything about Titanfall since.
Yeah.
Like, if that didn't move people over, in the early first quarter of the Xbox One being out, like, nothing the rest of this year is going to convert anyone who hasn't already got one.
Yeah, that's true. I think I was in the same boat. I thought, like, hey, Titanfall is really interesting. It's probably going to convert a lot of people to Xbox Ones, and it seems to have sold a decent number of Xbox Ones.
Right.
But that's also because you could buy it in a bundle that didn't include the fucking Kinect and had the game and was basically $100 cheaper than if you didn't. But, like, Microsoft is basically trying to hand out consoles and games. Apparently somebody said that they started getting copies of Forza in the mail randomly.
Really?
Yeah. Like, this is something that apparently Sega had done back when the Saturn flopped, and they started, like, taking, warranty mail-in stuff and started using those to send people games. So, who knows? I don't really think I'm qualified to speculate. I mean, when the PlayStation 3 came out, do you remember how much of a fucking shitfest that thing was for the first year?
Yeah. Oh God, there were actually like memes about it not having games, right?
That was part of it, but also the games it did have were absolutely shadows of what the Xbox 360 had. So the one I always remember is Splinter Cell Double Agent, where it had really good textures. It was a UI 3 game or something like that, or Unreal Engine 3 game on the Xbox 360. Or no, it was Unreal 2 at the time. And it looked really good on the 360. It looked pretty good on the Xbox, or the original Xbox. And on the PlayStation 3, it was like missing textures, and things weren't loading properly, and all this other crap. And it was like, holy shit. Like, they either couldn't code it because the PlayStation 3 had different architecture than the Xbox.
Yeah, I remember hearing that
360.
it was way harder to develop for the PS3 with the cell shit.
The cell processor that you're gonna have an Internet of Things in your house with cell processors in them.
God.
You remember that?
Internet of Things.
I fucking hate that phrase, the Internet of Things. But speaking of remakes of games that have come out, I started playing and I bought it because it was on super sale on Steam for random reasons. The new edition of Strider. I don't know if you guys played Strider on the Genesis or the Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
Which one did you play? Because they were fucking vastly different games, apparently.
The Nintendo, but only briefly.
Yeah. I think this one follows a little closer to the Nintendo one myself, but it's made by a company called Double Helix, and I want to see something. Here we go, Double Helix Games. Shoot, hit the wrong thing. But it looks. Holy shit! So Double Helix Games developed Strider in 2014. 2013, they made Killer Instinct for the Xbox. That was the free-to-play game. Before that, they made Battleship, the movie tie-in game. Before that, Green Lantern: Rise of the Manhunters, the movie tie-in game. Before that, Front Mission Evolved. Before that, G.I. Joe: Rise of the Cobra, the movie tie-in game. They came out on the PS2. Holy fuck, that was 2009. And prior to that, Silent Hill: Homecoming in 2008. So, these guys have not developed a ton of games, and they're actually now owned by Amazon, if you remember that purchase. I wanted to see something because, in all honesty, when I started playing this thing, all I could think was the Bionic Commando remake from a few years back.
I remember that, but I never got to play
I
it.
remember hearing it was terrible and never played it.
Oh. Well, this is interesting. The game started development in 2009 by the company that made that Bionic Commando remake. The Bionic Commando remake was actually pretty decent, in my opinion. Like, it definitely played up certain aspects of what the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 could do with the downloadable game, and it was pretty big for its time. And it was really fun. I would definitely go back and play it again. It got stupid difficult at points because they definitely toned up some certain things that you couldn't really do back then. But it was pretty classic. You still couldn't jump, all that stuff. In this, it reminds me a ton of that because it's got the same art style, and it has a lot of the same stuff. One of the things that bugs me the hell out of me in this game is that I played, I'm like an hour or so into it, and I finally got the ability to deflect bullets, and almost every enemy but like 2 have been projectile based thus far. So you have to take stupid amounts of damage just running down the way. So yeah, there's that. But I was actually enjoying it a ton. I thought that was a pretty worthwhile thing to mention while we're on the topic of indie and downloadable games and all that shit. But so far we've just basically trashed on the current generation of consoles that none of us own. I'm sure there's like if we
Well,
went,
this is a hating podcast.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. One of my things is always I'm sure that if we went and grabbed somebody who was a PlayStation 4 owner, they could give you a good reason why they own a PlayStation 4. And it's going to be like, hey, I can play all the games that come out on it, and I'm having a good time playing this game that also came out on the 360 and the PlayStation 3.
Right.
But they're going to come out and they're going to run better.
But I'm not going to argue against, or I'm not going to make the argument that current owners of the PS4, or even a chunk of current owners of the Xbox One, regret their purchases. I'm saying as essentially a swing voter, there's nothing that either of those candidates can offer me right now to get me to vote for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, those who are already into it, yeah, they
And-
probably have good reasons, and I'm sure they're having a good time with them, but
And
for the undecideds,
Mi-
nothing's going to change.
Microsoft really kind of fucked up because I think it's safe to say we were pretty big into the 360.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all three of us, like, that's how...
Talk as much shit as you want on it. It ended up being a pretty great console.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I used it all the time. The Netflix thing, when that was new, that was still great. I mean, use that to watch Netflix all the time. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like they just totally lost direction, you know? Like Microsoft's out in the fucking woods.
Yeah.
Speaking of direction and a callback to our odd numbering chat, I wonder if the next Xbox is going to be the Xbox 2 and just make everyone incredibly mad since it'll actually be the Xbox 4.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Or the Xbox One 2.
God damn it.
Oh man. Who knows what they'll do next? I think it's one of those things that it's theoretically the way they want to look at it. It's like this is going to be maybe 10 years out again before they upgrade. I don't think they can get away with that shit anymore. I'm surprised they got away with it with the Xbox 360 generation, because technology is going to move so much faster than them. And like like Arnold was saying earlier, this is already, because of financials, they're already throwing out a console that could be overmatched by a mid-range PC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to overpower it like it's your dad just in no time at all. And like it's going to just absolutely falter after a time, and just like, okay, we want to do some really interesting things, but we're stymied. That's I don't know if you guys have heard this one, but in Battlefield 4 they have the Riot Shield now. And originally, when they first had the idea of the Riot Shield, they wanted players to be able to use the shield along with a sidearm, and they had to cut that because the 360 and PlayStation 3 could not handle having the sidearm and the Riot Shield out at the same time. Like, the consoles themselves could not draw the polygons and handle it internally and with the network connections as well as they should be able to. And it's like, this is what happens when you run the console generation this long.
Mm-hmm.
And it has 512 megabytes of RAM in the damn thing. I'm impressed it fucking runs at this point. And I mean, the games that came out were helped massively by having some really optimized engines. And say what you want about the Unreal Engine, that thing was just, that basically kept this console generation running. It kept development costs down, and it made it possible to produce some pretty decent looking graphics, if not, looking like they just got jizzed on. But, it still produced some stuff that looked pretty decent for its time, even with texture popping and all that other crap. So, as this next console generation comes around, unless someone's going to come and develop an amazing engine that makes everything work really well, and they can port it to PC, and they can port it to Xbox, and all this other crap, like, they're going to have, this console generation is going to have more problems than the last one keeping it updated and keeping it running.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, and I mean, that kind of forces developers, instead of being able to make the game they want, they're forced to make the game that they're able to make.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And that ties it back into why the PC with the indie games and everything seems like it's a lot more a viable platform for a lot of these designers, because they're just like, we're gonna make a PC game, and we know how to make stuff in Game Maker or whatever it might be. You know, Hotline Miami was made in Game Maker, for fuck's sake.
Risk of Rain Game Maker, also
Maker.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, Risk of Rain had also came out for the PS Vita, but like you know, they know how to make you know how to make a game on a PC. There's enough middleware and tools and everything like that. You don't have to go buy a fucking license to get help from Sony or Microsoft or anything like that. You just make a game. You might kickstart it or wherever the fuck it is, because everything is kickstarted now. I think I could probably get my daily commute kickstarted if I really wanted to.
Well, I mean, you heard about the potato salad thing,
Yeah,
right?
the potato salad guy who got like $2,000 on his $12 potato salad.
More than that, it's up to like $40,000 right now.
God, fucking hipsters.
And well, what he's doing is he's been. I'm in the back of my mind. I'm hoping that the dude's gonna like give the vast majority of the stuff to charity or something, just because of how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
But he said that right now he's trying to work out a way to where he can mail every single contributor a taste of the potato salad. So some of these people might get a small Tupperware container in the mail with a spoonful of potato salad.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, we just trashed Thing for hours. I feel like we've done our job here as video game journalists.
Our work here is done.
So, thanks for watching, everyone. Listening. See you next time. Roll Tide.
Maybe
What?
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Yeah. Bye.
Born ready.